That's right, election night. G'day, how's it going? It's the year 2024 and the USA is having a race to the White House. But are either candidates really running? Let's listen to some American radio and see what we can pick up. Not a lot. How about the old ABC in Australia, of course?
I had no idea my wife was doing this behind my back.
Me either.
After coming back from a work trip, I think Megyn doesn't know how to lose. My dad died.
My dad died.
Sunday 8:30.
Plum.
Stream from the start on ABC iView.
Well, coming up, we'll cross back to our correspondents on the ground throughout the US, and we'll go to the Harris and Trump campaigns. We'll speak also to David Spears in Washington, D.C., plus all the latest results with Casey.
How exciting.
Votes here from the ABC Election Centre.
So this was a great election campaign. I did a little video on it a few days ago. The old switcheroo from Biden to Harris, and then Trump almost got unalived by a bullet. And it's all leading up to this moment.
We're entering the 5th hour of counting in the race for the White House.
The 5th hour of counting.
Starting to close in the central states, in places like Montana and Utah.
Montana.
Also in 2 critical states that are part of the so-called Sun Belt. Arizona, the 48th state to join the Union, and the last on the continent. It's traditionally voted Republican, but voted for Joe Biden in 2020.
And Nevada, home to Las Vegas. It may only hold 6
Las Vegas?
college votes, but in a tight race, it could prove crucial in the race to 270.
Dramatic music. Getting ready for war.
And I'm Jeremy Fernandez. If you were switched on to watch Question Time and you're wondering where that is, you can watch it on ABC Entertains or listen to it on ABC News Radio. Let's get the latest results now with Casey.
Thanks, Jeremy. We can now project the AP has pulled a couple more states, and they're both going to Donald Trump. First, the state of Montana. It's been won by Mr. Trump.
Trump has won Montana. I repeat, Trump has won Montana.
6 electoral college
And
votes.
Utah.
Donald Trump's column there. 2 other states have just closed polls. They are battlegrounds. It is too early to call the state of Arizona and its 11 electoral college votes, and the state of Nevada. We're watching for those figures as they come in, while all those battleground states on the East Coast are looking very close. Here's the current state of the race. Donald Trump, 198 electoral college votes. Kamala Harris, 99.
Trump has 198 electoral college votes. Kamala Harris only has 99. It's a bit of a worry.
Sarah, keen to get your observations at this point. Just gone 2 o'clock.
Yes, so certainly if you are in the Trump camp, you're feeling pretty confident at this moment.
Okay, the Trump camp is confident.
You're seeing things swinging your way. If you're in the and that doesn't mean by any stretch of the imagination that it's done.
Well, that's good, because that'd be a quick video. Everyone remembers the 2016 election, how Trump came out of nowhere, and the funniest video was the Young Turks reaction to it. So let's check in with them, see what the Young Turks are up to. Are they in meltdown mode? I think they'd be more composed this year, you'd imagine. Young Turks, Young Turks. TYT. We got this guy.
And the trans stuff, fine with that. I don't think that belongs. To ban books for high school kids, like, man, come on, 14 to 17, 18-year-olds. It's like you really, that's a very boomer thing to think that these kids don't know stuff that you know. Come on, man, they know they know everything. So that part was kind of dumb, and this is the problem. Republicans have to be. I'm not a Republican, by the way, but Republicans have to stand up and say, "Look, you guys have overreached."
So no meltdown yet. Just some guy talking about the woke agenda. Let's try. How about Megyn Kelly? All these people have live shows. It's the modern times. Everyone has a show. Andy Warhol was right.
We don't obsess over Hispanics, which is this fake category that was invented, this big balloon category in the 70s, but in the Nixon administration for no reason. And it just seems to me that there are very good reasons why historically African Americans have had a different identity, partly because they were oppressed for 200 years institutionally, but that hasn't happened to Hispanics, and so I think.
Is anyone talking about the election? What's this one? U.S. election live. Trump versus Harris, and this is on undercurrents. Emily Jashinsky. Let's see what she has to say. Oh, it starts in 54 minutes and 30 seconds. Well, that's no good. Let's go to MSNBC. That's an American news station, I believe. Riveting, isn't it? Again, dramatic music. Is this what's going through the poll booth counter's head as they tally up the votes? 1 for Trump, 1 for Harris. Projected winner, Donald Trump of Louisiana. Dun, 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 dun. Is that like AI? Play us a presidential military theme, please. Back to the Young Turks. Maybe we should try our American radio again. Boy, here's civil unrest already. TYT in tears? Let's hope so. Well, I don't want anyone to be upset, especially over an election. Like, this doesn't affect people's lives.
All right.
Does it?
Welcome back to TYT. Anna Kasperi, Michael Shore, and John Idarola with you. And also joining us is Yasmin. Thank you so much for joining us, Yas.
G'day, Yas.
Hi, happy to be here on this very exciting election night. I've been watching some of the coverage, and it's been a roller coaster so far.
Yeah, so look, I'll just start with, what's your temperature on the direction the election's going in so far?
Well,
about
I just
70.
saw that they called Texas for Trump, but that was always
To
going
be
to happen.
expected.
The Colin Allred thing, that one is disappointing, but Texas is nothing if not disappointing, right? And I think I've said this, John. I think I was on your show recently.
Texas is disappointing.
Talking about the race between Ted Cruz and Colin Allred, and I said I am very, very cautiously optimistic that he has some decent chances. He's down by about 8 points now, and I think last I checked it was about 65% of Texas reporting, and Ted Cruz was up 8 points. Just a reminder, back in 2018, he barely beat Beto O'Rourke, and he didn't even beat him by 3 points in that race. And Beto O'Rourke was like way more progressive than Colin Allred is, and especially for Texas.
Ted Cruz is struggling because the Republican Party didn't give him like funding. Mitch McConnell in the Senate didn't fundraise for him. Ted Cruz had no money.
Centrist liberal Democrat, so I thought maybe that would be a little less intimidating to Texas voters, but you know, maybe it's a similar phenomenon like what we see whenever there's somebody like Bernie versus somebody like Hillary Clinton. You know, the progressives, if given a chance, maybe they would perform a lot better.
Yeah, maybe a lot better. Let's go back to Megyn Kelly. She spoke at a Trump rally last night. Very emotional.
Night coverage. Decision 2024.
Exciting.
On News Radio. Wham 1180.
Welcome back, friends. Welcome back. We're continuing our live coverage of election 2024, and we have new numbers for the local elections.
Here we are. We have Steve Bannon.
Right now, she's got a massive problem.
What caused it, Steve? As you look back on, you know, her closing
okay,
message,
Steve.
She was only running for 107 days. What caused this?
That's true. No primary. Primary school?
See, David Brooks, you can tell this from the media because they're all saying, David Brooks had a big column in the Sunday Times, and as you know, he's one of the smartest guys around. He says, she needed this campaign to be longer. Remember, she was very ill-defined to the American people. She's not a particularly high-profile VP. She hasn't accomplished a lot. She dropped out of her presidential primary, the first one, even before Iowa. She had to define herself to the American people, and the way to do that is you've got to, like Donald Trump, make America great again, America first, build the wall, take one or two things that you really believe, and for authenticity, make sure it's something you can believe and sell. She didn't do that. She had this very ephemeral, the politics of joy. She kind of drifted along in those couple of weeks when they were so glad that somebody besides Biden was there. She didn't really define herself on any topic. She wouldn't take interviews. She never interviewed with you. She wouldn't take hard interviews. When she was even doing interviews, it was so almost infantile and juvenile what she was saying. Brett Baer asked her, what's the number one geopolitical threat to the United States? Who's our number one, geopolitical, the biggest national security problem we have in the world? What country? She said, Iran. And Brett Baer goes, well, a lot of people say China. And she says, no, Iran. She's as ill-prepared for the office, and that came through.
She probably doesn't think China is a problem.
She never defined herself. Now, in MSNBC, we're doing a good job here, Megyn, when before 10 o'clock at night, Lawrence O'Donnell, Rachel Maddow, the entire crew are bitching and moaning about the Electoral College. When they're down, they got the sad faces and the big tears coming down for the Electoral College. I think it's going well for the populist nationalist movement and President Trump tonight.
That's for sure. Here's another one for you. Joyreid, who's upset, I'm sure, about the Electoral College as well, which, by the way, for whatever it's worth, the New York Times is suggesting now their projection is that Trump will win it. This is just a guess. This isn't their actual prediction. Suggesting that Trump will win it 295 to 243, which is the highest they've had him. But
so in American politics, you can win the popular vote but lose the Electoral College vote. And the Electoral College vote is what counts when it comes to making the president.
Here's Joyreid, who's really, really mad
Joyreid
Trump crushed Florida. Take a listen.
It's a pure Project 2025 in miniature in Florida, and that kind of extreme, sort of extremist right-wing
Florida?
fascist type government in Florida, does that make it a more attractive place?
Florida.
Extreme right-wing fascist government. I guess she's talking about Ron DeSantis, but that's what we're in for 4 years of that if Trump pulls this thing off. Florida
is like the most laid-back state. Like, I lived there for years. little history on myself. It's not a fascist dictatorship in Florida. Okay, so they're talking about MSNBC. Let's see if they're back from the military song.
Remember, we were using this as a gauge because in 2020, Joe Biden won this by 8.5 points, won the state. In 2016, Donald Trump lost this only by about 3.5 points, 3.4 points. This was a winning combination for Donald Trump. He won the state. This was a losing combination for Donald Trump. Tonight, at 3.1 points, his loss here in Lackawanna County is actually a little bit less than the 2016 margin. This was one of our key questions in Pennsylvania tonight.
Pennsylvania.
Will Donald Trump get back to his 2016 level in a big blue-collar county
Pennsylvania.
like this? Because there are a lot of big blue-collar counties like this throughout the contested northern tier of the battleground. This I'm flagging for you because we said it at the start of the night. We'd use this as a bellwether also because this is now the complete one. We've been looking for complete counties. We've got a complete county here. So that's what it lands at right there. That was the question we asked. We now have an answer. Luzerne County, another biggie. Again, this is all big blue-collar counties, northeast Pennsylvania, slowly getting that same day, that election day vote counted up. Trump's lead now is 11 points. This is where Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania is.
Trump's winning a lot of counties in Pennsylvania. Okay, let's go back to the the clown show of the Young Turks. See what they're up to. They're going to be way more composed this year. They know, like, if you type in Young Turks on YouTube.
Anecdote for that, right? They just watch the national news and then they interpret that as like, that is my life and that is what I'm experiencing here, even though it's not really the reality. Maybe in some parts of the state it is, but where I live, it really isn't. Not that I've seen, not that I've heard from other people. So there's that, and then people always like to talk kind of nebulously about the economy and how Trump is going to fix the economy, and they always talk about the grocery bills. And
yeah, why would they talk about grocery bills?
And, it's really hard to argue with those things because, yeah, the grocery prices are very high, but they don't really want to hear anything about, Trump's economic plan or lack thereof, or his tariff plan and how all the economists say it's such a bad idea. They're not really interested in having this conversation.
All of the economists.
Not with me.
All of them.
Maybe it's just me. Maybe they just don't want to talk to me.
No, I'm sure everyone wants to talk to you, but
yeah, I'm sure everybody.
I get the sense that this election wasn't really about policy. Like, honestly, if you compare this election to even 2020, like the primary cycle in 2019 and 2020, I remember Elizabeth Warren coming out with, like, detailed policy proposals, and maybe that was overkill. I will admit, maybe that was overkill. But there isn't really, like, for those who care about policy, there isn't really much to latch onto with either candidate here. There's just a lot of broad, vague talk about what their values are.
Yeah, but this wasn't a policy election. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, I would say, look, I think maybe in a general sense, I don't think that they're equal in those measures. I mean, you've covered the plans that Harris has put out.
But John, I mean, it's
I'm simply not going to say that they're the same. I mean, Trump, no tax on tips is not the same as putting out a plan to try to deal with housing.
But I mean, look, sure, Harris has definitely put out proposals, but they've been...
So they're starting to point fingers. They're saying, like, maybe Harris needed more substance. It's possible. Let's go back to good old Australia and the ABC, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. At least we're trying to.
Calls to radio shows and also dropping in on a phone banking event. She is, of course, due to address the crowd here. That's another chair. It's for Virginia, so what you see is the crowd go, wow, you guys, and we are all into the weeds of these results. This crowd here, several thousand people, whenever they see a result that goes in Kamala Harris's favor, they cheer for it, even if it's a reliably blue state. So the mood of this crowd, perhaps not the most reliable indicator of just how the race is
Trump's on
going.
198.
But
Kamala Harris is on 109.
For Harris so far, and this
Only 6 US states are still voting.
possibility that things might not go their way today.
And Jade, these figures would be encouraging for the supporters where you are at Trump HQ. What's the mood on the ground there?
Hello.
Yeah, Donald Trump's supporters are certainly very hopeful that he will be returned to the White House. People have been coming into the election watch party, which is being hosted here in West Palm Beach. Many of them are dressed in those signature Make America Great Again caps. The people that we spoke to as they came in were mostly from Florida. As we've been speaking about, Florida was once a key battleground, but it is firmly Republican now. Donald Trump has a lot of support here, and at least among those people that we were speaking to, they felt very strongly that the economy would be the #1 issue for voters at this election. As you was just discussing, Donald Trump often begins his rallies with this question that he asks the crowd: are you better off now than you were 4 years ago?
That was a Reagan line. A great president, Ronald Reagan, in my humble opinion, only because he was mentioned in Back to the Future. Ronald Reagan, the actor? Then who's vice president? Jerry Lewis? I suppose Jane Wyman is the first lady, and Jack Benny is treasury of the state? Duck.
I think a lot of people knew what to do with all of that information, and maybe it was.
Young Turks
But
again.
like, there's a difference between the Democratic voters and the Republican voters. I think Democratic voters are the ones who are looking for those policy details. They want to know exactly how things are going to be accomplished and what the end result is going to be, and what the likelihood is that, you know, we're going to achieve those end results or those end goals. With the Republicans, at least the modern day Republican Party, they just want to hear that Trump is going to do something, right? They wanted to hear that he was going to build a wall to keep the Mexicans out. How is he going to pay for it? He didn't have an answer. He said Mexico's going to pay for it. And that was enough for them. Back then, that was enough for them. They don't understand his tariff plan, but they don't need to, because they're going to vote for him anyway. And, you know, around these parts, there is a lot of fear and there is a lot of Jesus coming from the conservative side. And that's just from me talking to people, right? There's a lot of fear and a lot of Jesus.
Oh.
Jesus is big in this election.
So argument ad populum. It's not an argument. Just because you talk to a few people who mention Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, is that really why people are voting? Just a thought. I don't know. They probably are. Let's go back to the Megyn Kelly show. A lot of podcasts.
Think is looking the most likely?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
I think Wisconsin.
By the way, to your point, NBC News projecting Donald Trump wins Iowa. So you are absolutely right about the Seltzer poll not holding up. She had Kamala Harris winning Iowa by 3 points, Henry.
Yeah, well, look, like I said when we talked this morning, and people have been asking me about the Seltzer poll for the last 48 hours, every great pollster has a stinker. No one denies that Ann Seltzer is the best pollster.
So they're saying Trump's going to win Iowa now. It's possible, at least. If Trump wins, it just makes mainstream media and like the Hollywood elite obsolete. Like, that all they've done is campaign for Kamala Harris and put down Trump, like Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel. That's all they talked about, making fun of this guy. And yet, the majority of voting Americans voted for him. And, like, Trump went hard on all the podcasts. He was on Rogan, Theo. It makes you think that the internet is the future. And like TV stations and like Hollywood. Like no one's going to see these new Hollywood blockbusters. So they're not even winning at their own propaganda. Why would they win at suggesting that Donald Trump is a buffoon? In my humble opinion. Back to ABC. Any other podcasts I should check out? see what's in the recommendations.
Here we go. We can now say that Kamala Harris has won the District of Columbia. No surprises there. It just takes a little bit longer to come in because
DC
of the way that
comics,
is counted, because there aren't great exit polls in a district that small. But that's another 3 Electoral College votes for Kamala Harris, and I think that is the first and last time I'm going to have to find a district that tiny on our big map of America.
You're doing very well, Casey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, it's coming up to 10:30 in the evening in DC. David Spears is there right now, David?
Spearsy.
Jeremy, yes, thank you. It might be tiny on the map, but a very important part of this country and this world. And with Arthur Sinodinos, once again, the former Australian ambassador to the United States. No great surprise, a bit like Canberra, isn't it? Washington, where Canberra always votes.
Bigger and with more to do.
Exactly. And a few bigger monuments, too. Keen for your thoughts at this point of the evening, what you're seeing so far. It's looking a lot more like, as we've been saying for a long time, we're going to come down to Michigan, Wisconsin,
trending Trump's way. North Carolina and Georgia, particularly Georgia, looking that way.
Yep.
I agree, coming down to the 3 states. It could come down to Pennsylvania, if that's the case. In which case, we may not have the full result tonight. Interesting, Arizona. Let's just reserve judgment on Arizona. But I think Joe Biden, if he's watching tonight, will be thinking, well, there's some of these areas where actually my vote is higher than Kamala Harris's vote. He'll be thinking, and he'll be...
He might scratch his head and think, maybe I shouldn't have listened to all the critics.
You wonder, but I think what's happening is the economy question may well be playing more significantly in some parts of the country than perhaps people have estimated.
But you can flip that around too and say maybe he should have gone earlier, and maybe Kamala Harris should have done more to distance herself from
possibly.
Yeah, defend Kamala Harris. Come on, young Turks, cry. Actually, I don't want anyone to cry. That would be unpleasant. Here's Anna Kasparian talking again.
Voting for Trump is the middle finger to the establishment, is a middle finger to the politicians that they feel have left them behind. And so
and
it's
to
like
the libs. I mean, it's an own the libs party.
That's true as well. But I think it goes even beyond that, because they don't just talk about the libs. They also talk about the rhinos, right? They're unhappy with how our politics has worked out for them. And Donald Trump angers everybody, right? I don't think that they see Republican politicians' secret hatred for Trump as a loss. They see that as a win.
So they were so shocked the first time in 2016 when Trump won. So now they're prepared for it. It's not going to be as fun as that other one. MSNBC. Or maybe the American radio station.
The presidential race with Trump not looking so bad. Let's stop, get an update from Bud Lowe. Be back right after that with you. It's election coverage.
Election coverage. Who's gonna win the election for America 2024? Keep hitting refresh, we still don't have a winner. Like Arthur Sinodinos said, we may not know, especially if it's Pennsylvania that we're waiting on. Dun, 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 dun. Lovely music, at least. Back to Megyn Kelly.
They will think that that will be something to watch.
You mean not Jack Smith? You mean the Alvin Bragg DA in
yes, Alvin Bragg. But also Jack Smith later on, but Alvin Bragg.
Yeah, Jack Smith still got an open prosecution against him, and he's appealing the one that got thrown out, so he's got 2 avenues against Trump still potentially viable.
I think you've mentioned that, too. Alvin Bragg could put him in jail this month.
I mean, I don't think that they will be able to do that. Hold on 1 second, let's see. This is Pennsylvania. Hold on, we don't actually have a projection, but it's the New York Times reporting Pennsylvania right now, Trump +3 with 56% reporting.
Okay.
In Lackawanna, it's Harris +3. That's one of the counties. That's where Scranton is, with 95% reporting.
The Office, Scranton, Pennsylvania.
What did Biden get? Biden won Lackawanna +8, 8.5 in 2020. She's at +3 right now in Biden's home county, where Scranton is, Lackawanna. Again, it's only 56% reporting. That could change. But she is just, you know, what's happening now, Victor, amazingly, is we may be starting to realize they were better off with Biden.
It's very possible. I enjoy some other podcasts. The BBC. Let's go across the pond, as they say, to England. See how they're reporting on
voting for Donald Trump, according to these latest figures that again could change. But when you look at Kamala Harris's numbers, it's a completely different picture. She is leading with black voters. About 4 in 5 voters say they voted for Kamala Harris. And then when you look at Hispanic figures, Harris is still in the lead, but it's worth flagging that Donald Trump is up 10 points with Hispanic and Latino voters compared to where he was at in 2020.
So now, if you bear with me for one more,
I've got education for you. And when it comes to education,
you'll
see that the majority of voters with college degrees are voting for Kamala Harris, and the majority without a college degree are voting for Donald Trump. So really interesting data there, but keep in mind, this is a broad view of the national picture. This isn't swing state data, and of course it is in the swing states, as we keep saying all night, that's where the election will be won and lost. And
swing states sound fun. Do they get pushed?
You know, they love that. I mean, that's at least the sense I get.
What do you reckon? Trump?
Or its age, disability, and sex, including sex.
Larry Sabato's crystal ball had among the for Trump, best for Kamala. I don't know Ann Seltzer in Iowa, but she really got this one wrong. I think she tried to change the race with that poll at the last minute, trying to inject some, and I don't know whether it was conscious or subconscious to try to save, and all these older women are so obsessed with abortion and they're running to the polls. Well, it didn't happen. He just won. Iowa was one of the first states called.
I think it's like, why would Lorne Michaels ruin his reputation after 40 years of obeying basically protocols that you don't overtly endorse a candidate or put one particular candidate out right before the election? And it's analogous to the pollsters. I think they felt that the ends were so important that you had this noble, better, superior candidate and you had this awful Trump, and that if you were going to risk your reputation just a little bit, it would be worth it, because you could create momentum, or you could get a late surge in donations, or you could get more exposure, or you could get greater turnout. And I do think that, I don't know whether it's overtly conscious or subconscious, but I do think there was an intent behind it, and it was not empirical, because there was too many
Victor, I want
indicators.
to tell you this. The New York Times, not calling anything, but now moving Georgia from toss-up. First they moved it to lean Trump, and now they just moved Georgia to very likely Trump, and they just moved Michigan to lean Trump. Yeah. Michigan. I mean, you heard Henry was saying Wisconsin looks like it's Trump's at this point. He didn't call it, but he's saying Wisconsin is very strong for Trump. This is Michigan, and also North Carolina likely Trump.
Yeah, you know, I go there every year, and I to teach at Hillsdale for 2 or 3 weeks, and I could tell there was something.
I didn't ask for your life story, pal. ABC Australia seem to have a lot going on. Allegedly.
Early on election night, as Casey has been discussing, results start coming in from small towns and small cities across the country. Places where counting votes doesn't take very long because there aren't that many of them in one place.
Seems
this
simple.
tends to favour Republicans like Donald Trump. Then, as the night goes on, big cities full of Democrats start reporting their votes and momentum starts to shift.
They're going to have a natural disadvantage, and Trump's going to take advantage of it. That's our strategy. He's going to declare himself a winner. So when you wake up Wednesday morning, it's going to be a firestorm.
That's our strategy, Bannon said. Trump will declare victory before the blue shift happens.
If Trump is losing by 10 or 11 o'clock at night, it's going to be even crazier. No, because he's going to sit right there and say they stole it. I'm directing the Attorney General to shut.
So that's Steve Bannon's voice, who we heard on Megyn Kelly a little while ago. They're playing audio of him saying that there's a strategy that Trump, because he tends to win early on in the night because it's small towns and rural areas that get counted quicker than the big Democratic cities. So then, when the vote starts to shift, he'll declare victory before then, which is strange because you need 270, I think, electoral votes. He's at 198 at the moment, so he can't just declare victory when he's not in sight. So I don't know if he's telling the truth. Back to the BBC telling us that uneducated voters voted for Trump.
Is the generic ballot nationwide. As a member of Congress, as a Republican and Democrat, as a Republican, we always knew the generic ballot was, if we were 4 or 5 down, we were going to do very well.
New York Times estimates that this evening will end up with Trump at 297 electoral college votes and Harris at 241. They now say that there's an 84% chance of Trump winning the election. These are numbers pulled out of air based in scientific research. And
Trump's gonna win. That's what I'm hearing. So I guess we can call it a night. But it's been fun enjoying this with you.
Devices allegedly on planes, and we're looking at something's going to happen with Iran.
I'm not going to be like that liberal lady with the beanie hat and glasses screaming, "Ah!" Although I'd like to be. Like, who wouldn't?
Very soon. And the idea that she would be the commander-in-chief just terrifies people, I think.
Terrified of Kamala Harris.
We'll see how the night goes.
She seems like a nice lady.
Exactly. I'm going to stand you by. One piece of good news for Kamala. The New York Times just moved Michigan back into toss-up. So Michigan goes
after all that.
Trump right back to toss-up moments later. So they're not feeling as confident now that it may be getting redder as more and more raw vote comes in and they get it tallied
up. Good night, Megyn. Back to the BBC.
There is no shy voter anymore. The people who are being polled now have an even slightly ahead for Republicans.
I'm a shy voter. I didn't tell anyone.
Nationwide. That's
allegedly
a big deal, and I think it's.
Okay, let's go back to the ABC one more time. History is being recorded.
Suburbs. You know, the Lord, Matt.
Casey's got some figures for us.
Yeah, actually, just quickly want to start in the state of Iowa, where Donald Trump is leading by, that's gone up nearly 12 points now. This was the state where that shock and Seltzer poll was published in the days leading into today that had Harris up 3. Now, Seltzer has a very good record. It's looking like that this poll will not be the best of polls because Donald...
So never believe polls, never believe anyone. Well, they always said it would be a close election. It's kind of close, but Trump's pulling ahead and predicted to win this early on. Oh, look at Sync Yuga. Come on, sync.
So actually, real quick, just read us Michigan and Wisconsin. Percentage reporting and what the race is.
Wisconsin is it to the vote. He's up by 1 point. So it's 50 to 49.
Okay, that could go either
so
direction.
Super close. Michigan's only at 25% of the vote. He's up by 0.7.
Wisconsin looks like Australia tilted a little bit. You ever notice that?
Percent of the vote.
Okay, could go either way. All right, Farron, what do you make of all this right now?
You know, we all knew this was going to be a tight race, and I do think it ended up actually being tighter so far than what a lot of people thought. You know, I don't want to say it's reminiscent of 2016, but wow, it feels reminiscent of 2016 with everybody going in maybe with a little too much optimism. You know, I saw a little bit ago Michael talking about all these people with the fantasies of Texas is going to turn blue. You know, I've been covering, this is my 6th presidential election. In every cycle, you get all these liberal, you know, magazines and outlets. They're like, this is the year that Texas is totally turning blue.
It's always possible, I suppose. Like, people are different. You can't, like, put them in categories. They'll vote on the issues, they'll vote on the person. Kamala Harris came out of nowhere. She kind of stabbed Joe Biden in the back, took control, and didn't give interviews.
I'm expecting, I still think Kamala Harris is favoured here, but you're seeing this picture of swings to
she did do Call Me Daddy.
Or Donald Trump, even in states like Virginia. I do think Kamala Harris is the favourite still in that state, but it is perhaps closer than people might have expected.
Talking about Virginia.
These swings are making it difficult for Kamala Harris in many places. Her pathways are narrowing because, as we've been talking about, if she loses those 2 states, she's behind in them. That creates difficulty in the other swing states. If she loses any one of these, even, you know, say Michigan, for example, she then needs to go hunting, add in those extra safe states, she then needs to go hunting, if she, say, loses Michigan, loses those 3, winning.
Okay, let's give MSNBC the last word on the subject of who the president's going to be. And of course it's just military music. And with that, thanks for watching the US presidential election night full coverage. God bless.